One Piece chapter 1089 is out and it's important. So we're not gonna waste a lot of time. We're gonna get right into the chapter because this is one of those chapters that you're gonna remember because it's setting the stage for what's to come. Yes, we haven't been in Egghead for a long time. If you've forgotten some of the things that's happened, I have an Egghead recap as well. I'll put it somewhere here, so go check that out and come back. But Oda skipped a lot of stuff. When I say skipped a lot of stuff, things that are redundant that we don't necessarily need to see, that are foregone conclusions for the most part. So I understand why he's skipping them. And we'll talk about them as well in this review. But things are happening. Things are truly happening. Things I didn't expect. You somewhat thought about, but we're not gonna waste any time. Let's get to the chapter. Cover story, didn't like it. Not for what you think. It's beautiful and I love seeing it. Didn't like it because it's not canon. It's a cover art request. And for Nami, I would like to see her drawing maps in the actual canon story. We know Oda did say it's happening behind the scenes, etc. I want to see it in the story. It's an important part of the story. Nami's dream, creating a chart, a map of the world. I need to see it. Show it to me. Other than that, beautiful. The chapter kicks off though with news around the world because a day has passed. The day after the events on Hachinosu, we're finding out just how far and wide the news has spread. And the news, well, it's all over the world. The first reaction we see though is Fuchsia Village because, of course, those are the people that are closest to Garp that we know of that are still alive. That last part wasn't necessary. Cut that out. We see the reactions of Whoopslap, Makino, even Dadan, and Whoopslap for the most part is not worried about Garp, saying, well, Garp is missing on Hachinosu, but it's Garp, he's a legend. Nothing to be worried about. What I realized as well, they're more worried when Sabo was in the newspaper and he's missing, as opposed to Garp going missing on a YONKO's territory, which shows just how much faith they have in Garp. I think that's insane, right? That's crazy, but it's Garp. That's all we have to say, it's Garp. Like, come on. He's a living legend, like he'll be fine. But this is a big deal considering we know the context of what's going on. He's captured and so Blackbeard has his bargaining chip, right? We also see Makino with her child. Now we're not sure who the pappy is and people are speculating that it's Shanks. Oda recently came out and talked about Ben Beckman and Shanks and saying Shanks is more popular with the ladies, but Ben Beckman, he gets more women because he tries to talk to them more. I don't want to say this is baby Beckman. That would be an interesting wrinkle. However, she does say that Luffy is his big bro, which implies that Shanks is the dad. You know, that's what a lot of people think. Young Boofy, I mean, I think he's gonna be a great pirate as well. He's already enamored and probably inspired by Luffy. It's gonna be fantastic. However, everything is not great in this chapter because the people in the different blues, we see in Logtown, right, and different blues, East Blue, South Blue, North Blue, West Blue, they're affected by the effects of Lelouchia being, well, not being there or not ever existing, right? And what's happening is that the tides and the currents, first off, it causes an earthquake and that's leading to tsunamis, water rising, islands are being leveled or just overran by water. Flooded, they call that. Overran by water, that's typically flooding. Something that it didn't really talk about in the chapter is how many people probably died, right? From a tsunami, flooding, full islands are submerged. Imagine how many people are trapped in their houses, right? Couldn't get out, people that are disabled, can't move. A lot of people died from them just destroying Lelouchia. And we, of course, we see reactions from people like Laboon because now he has more play space. Too soon. We see Iceberg because we know Iceberg is building a ship. We see Hina as well because the news of Garp, that is important. We see Momonosuke because I wonder how Wano is being affected by as well because Wano of course has Pluton, right? There's so many moving parts here. So like, I love reaction chapters, right? Because it's telling us, hey, this is how people around the world feel about what's going on right now. The funnest part I see is the Celestial Dragons as well. They're reacting to it. Unbeknownst to them, Emu is the one that caused it. I mean, probably some of them don't even know Emu exists, but Emu's just there, right? No reaction because Emu's still a silhouette, but Emu's the cause of this. The crazy part about it is that they were testing this when we first saw it, right? They were testing this item because we're gonna get to the Enies Lobby thing in a second. But I wonder if they knew of the effects about this. And the theory that's floating around is this is why they chose the red line. Why? Well, they knew that they were gonna use this again, or the effects of just destroying or eradicating an island like with God Valley, etc., or what happened at Enies Lobby. And so they chose a red line higher ground because this was inevitable. I'm not sure if this is gonna tie into what's going on in the story as well with Noah and Noah's Ark. Some of us know the story of the flooding of the world and then Noah's Ark had to save the people that wanted to live. But now it's showing just the importance of not disrupting the natural order, right? That's a very important, you cannot just destroy an entire island and don't expect the world to change. And it's kind of like nature is rebelling, Mother Nature. Because think about it, how the One Piece world is set up, how Vegapunk somewhat describes things. It's like things happen because people wanted them to be. They willed them into existence. But because people willed them into existence and they're not natural things, they are then rebellions or rebellious against Mother Nature. That's why they're not accepted by the sea. Devil fruits, right? So for instance, when you destroy an entire island, a natural island, Mother Nature is upset. And this is Mother Nature raging against the world, voicing her displeasure. That's exactly what's happening here. I think eventually, because they're going to use this item again, it's going to happen again. They're going to get the Mother Flame and they're going to use this item again. Because something I was thinking about Rob Lucci. We'll talk about him. I'll tell you guys. It'll tie in. I promise. I won't forget. They're going to get it again and they're going to use it again. And then the world is going to go crazy again. And it said it's causing earthquakes, which of course causing tsunamis. And it makes me think about Whitebeard and how they say Whitebeard could destroy the world. And we're seeing just how an earthquake is impacting the world. That just tells you something, right? It tells you a lot, to be honest. But what's happening right now where they destroyed Lelouchia? It is a giant circular waterfall in the middle of the sea. Sailors can't get close. They're trying to go home and see their parents or their kids or their family because Lelouchia never existed. But it leaves a circular waterfall. And the only time you've seen something similar is Enies Lobby. But the architecture of Enies Lobby has always been a mystery. How is it like this? First, it's never nighttime on the island, right? That's something that's not explained as yet with the Aqua Laguna. We can understand the whirlpools around the island at this point because if they did that before, if you look at what's happening around Lelouchia, there are whirlpools around this waterfall. So whatever happened, then they created the Gate of Justice to kind of calm the seas and keep the currents out. But we can't miss the waterfall under the island. Just a giant chasm under the island of Enies Lobby. Now we have somewhat an explanation, not saying it's the same exact thing that happened, but we see the effects of an island being destroyed. Not crazy if an island got destroyed there. Which brings us to the Ancient Kingdom, how they were destroyed, where are they, the One Piece, etc. It's so many things we can try to tie together. However, this is an insane revelation. We've always wondered about that. What is going on in Enies Lobby? We've gotten a bit closer in regards to an explanation as to what's going on there. I have no idea. Like I mentioned, Oda skipped a bunch of stuff. We got a lot of stuff outside of Egghead, right? With the Shanks, Blackbeard, we know what we got outside of Egghead. So coming back, Oda had to structure it in a way which is palatable for fans that kind of keep up with what's going on. Probably read the Egghead the entire time ever since we've been back to Egghead. And some fans is super casual. We're just like, I don't remember exactly what's going on in Egghead. So Oda used this moment to not only recap, but also skip forward because some things are, again, foregone conclusions. The Marines have arrived and they're engaging with the Straw Hats. Not the Straw Hats necessarily, but the other side, mostly the Sea Beasts. And everything that's transpiring right now is the calm before the storm, if you want to classify it as that. Still 30,000 Marines here. I've said it before, I don't care about numbers when it comes to the Straw Hats. They'll equal out in some way. And again, we saw in Fishman Island how many people Luffy knocked out with Conqueror's Haki alone. Now we know Zoro has Conqueror's Haki as well. I'm not worried about the numbers. What I'm worried about is the quality on the other side. And to be honest, I'm not that worried about the quality on the other side. We see the 9 Vice Admirals. There are only 3 that I really recognize. That's Doberman, Kadar, and Dahl, right? The others, I've seen them before, but I don't recognize them. But these are 9 Navy HQ Vice Admirals, which mean these are the quality Vice Admirals. Does that mean anything to me? Not really. Garp and Suru aside, I guess, if you want to exclude Suru. The Vice Admirals, they have not had a great showing. They've probably been clowned on more than any other position in the Marines or rank. The number 1 person is Maynard. Even though he's up against Barto, it's Maynard and then Bastille. Vice Admirals, they don't have a good rep. Of course, Virgo got dominated by Law eventually, but Virgo had a great showing, I think. And then the other Vice Admiral that we know of, he's MIA. Where is he? Where's our boy? Where is Smoker? Where is Smoker? Let's be honest here. They haven't had a great showing, and I don't expect much, especially against the Straw Hats. There are 9 Vice Admirals here. With Kizaru, that makes 10. So the quality on the other side, well, you can include St. J as well. The quality on the other side, it's not moving me. Even though these guys are supposed to be quality, they're still Vice Admirals. There are 2 Vice Admirals that we know of that were Admiral candidates. You could have sent them, but maybe that would be overkill in regards to how Oda's looking at the story. 30,000 aside, don't really matter. What about the quality officers that are there? Kizaru, of course, that's an Admiral. These 9 Vice Admirals don't have high expectations, but I love the designs, especially Dollface, right? Especially my girl Doll. Other than that, we gotta wait and see. We gotta wait and see. Vice Admirals, you gotta prove it to me. Borsellino, he's there without a care in the world. I love the interaction with Sentomaru saying, you know, hey, I can't protect Vegapunk because he decided to research the Void Century. But the interaction between Sentomaru and Kizaru, it is a bit sad because the Oda shows a picture from back in the day. The crazy part is that Kizaru joined the Marines at 26. Pretty young. He's 58 now. So that's close to 40 years ago if we assume that the research started early in his career. 40 years ago plus, or around 40 years ago. Sentomaru is 34. So if we assume this is Sentomaru at, let's say, 10, 12, 15 years old, it is still a very long time that they've known each other and spent time around each other, right? I want to talk about Kizaru's mindset because he's an admiral that I haven't made many videos about because, let's be quite honest, we don't know much about him. The admirals in general, but for Kizaru, it's almost like a front every single time where I kind of look at things as I really don't care. Things are somewhat beneath me. I do have the power sometimes to do things, but it's just, he views himself as a cog in the machine, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, like if that's your career choice, but he's so powerful and he has such an impact on the events that's happening in the world. He's just accepting to just being a cog. He just accepts it. Again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just surprising with somebody of his caliber being just okay with being a soldier. Another translation called him a corporate slave, but being okay with that is interesting to me. Kizaru does explain that anything that happens, anything that breaks is a net loss for them. He's just there because it's an assignment. And so that's why for me it's hard to connect with someone like Kizaru because there's nothing to really connect to. For him, it's, bro, it is what it is. I can only do what I'm told. It is what it is. Which Kizaru is probably one of the more loyal Marines. I make this thing go, but I'm just one of the, I don't make the decisions. It's above me now. Saint J. Garcia is also here, and he's interesting. But he comes and he says, I don't want anybody to know I'm here. Because of course he's a Gorosei. He's gonna get involved regardless. Just, it's inevitable. But he reveals to us what's going on in the newspaper. The newspaper tells us one day later, where basically the Straw Hat Pirates, they storm Egghead and they take Vegapunk hostage. And he likes that title, right? Because it paints, again, the Straw Hats as bad people because a lot of people love Vegapunk, right? It's not downing the Marines. He enjoys the article. But they get the reality of the situation, which Oda goes into recap of pretty much what's going on so that we can remember. The players in the game, also where the location of everyone is, pretty much recap. They're drawing conclusions based on Sentomaru and Sentomaru's resistance. It's not super interesting stuff, but important stuff if you don't remember it. One thing they couldn't possibly know is Rob Lucci and CP0 working with the Straw Hats, or Rob Lucci and Kaku, per se, or Stussy betraying them. You can't really factor in those things, so that's something that could catch them off guard. Remember I mentioned Rob Lucci earlier and how they could get the Mother Flame. Rob Lucci was just privy to that conversation at the end of the chapter. For Rob Lucci to probably get back into the Marines or in the good graces of the world government, he has to go get that Mother Flame. He has to either take York to the fusion reactor, but he has to do something of that sort because from right now, York sees Rob Lucci working with the Straw Hats. He is not tied up at all. We'll get to that final panel in a moment, but he's not restricted. So you're voluntarily working with the enemy. If they find that out and you have nothing to show, now I'm looking at it as collusion because you failed against them before. We have proof that you were working with them. Yeah, it's time to go. So for Rob Lucci, he's in quite a quandary. What do you do? Do you work with the Straw Hats to stay with the Straw Hats? I don't know if you want to do that. Your pride, we understand just how much your ego is important to you. But then the world government, they're not going to take this L laying down, especially if they get proof that you were working with the Straw Hats. Buckle up, buddy. Buckle up, pal, because you're going to jail. I think the only way he can kind of salvage this is getting the fusion reactor and getting it to them, because that's what she wants to become a Celestial Dragon. Saturn. He asks about the workers and researchers of Egghead, which I would think they would want to retain those guys because of Vegapunk's research, but I think they obviously passed it because he then tells them to sink the ship. So they're gone. But then from Jewelry Bonnie, he says to leave her alone. She's just a little girl. And Bonnie's older than Luffy. Do you look at Luffy as a little boy? Are you still underestimating Luffy? If you're gonna underestimate Bonnie, I foresee Bonnie being the main reason somehow Jay Garcia gets caught up. I don't think he gets apprehended, but you underestimating Bonnie could be the reason why things happen. But he may have a soft spot. Maybe he has a daughter. Maybe he interacted with her when she was living at Mary Joa, because Kuma, he basically fell on the sword to be experimented on, and that was his daughter, so I'm sure he tried to get them or persuaded them to provide asylum for her. I absolutely love the build up to the final panel, because for the longest, we're reading the chapter, I'm thinking York is in charge. We have to overcome the Seraphim again, right? We have to apprehend York. We have to basically use S-Snake to basically break out everyone from the stone. No, everything is done. York is under control, but I love the build up, where York is demanding things, she's negotiating, talking about the Mother Flame, talking about what they want. But the entire time, she was under the sword of that boy Roanoa. And the Straw Hats, they just look so badass. Luffy just casually eating meat. Zoro with the blade, Usopp with the transponder snail, Sanji in the back with the food, Rob Lucci with his arms folded, because he's there. And that's one of my favorite parts of the chapter, Rob Lucci, because he's there in the midst of these goats. And guess what? He can't do anything. He can't do anything. He just has to... Damn it. Damn it. Oh, you don't acknowledge him as a Yonko? Do something. Do it. Can't do nothing. You don't want to smoke. This showed the hand of the girls saying what they want. But with York going through everything, Rob Lucci now has some leverage and things he can get to negotiate. I love the absolute last panel. Vegapunk is packed and ready to go. So again, all the plot points that were going on in Egghead, for the most part, they're resolved. So now we can focus on this battle, this war, this raid, and then get through this to get to the next spot. Now, what does transpire here? Again, it's set up for the 9 Vice Admirals, 9 Straw Hats, Luffy versus Kizaru. It's set up for that interaction, right? But there's going to be some wrinkle in there because the Blackbeard Pirates are also here. With the Blackbeard Pirates being here, we don't know who they are because I presume it's Lafitte and Katarina Devon. And Lafitte, Master Infiltrator, Mary Jorah before without them knowing. And then Katarina can turn into anybody. So what do they want? This is presenting just why Egghead is one of the better arcs in the story. The fluff is condensed. All we're getting is context, right? And that's all we really need. But you're focusing on the characters we want you to focus on. So I presume next chapter is going to fly by pretty quickly as well. It's not going to be a lot of fluff running around. It's going to be key events, key moments happening, because that's where we are in the story. These things are important at this point. If you forgot Egghead and you want to recap, you can go check out this vid right here. Catch you up.